Well, this thing was squeaking like crazy when I was running my last batch of dough, and now it's quiet. Maybe because there's no load on the paddle. The bread pan is empty. But it sounded like metal on metal, and anytime you have metal on metal rubbing, something's gonna go. And anytime you have a bearing that's exposed to high heat, it's gonna need constant maintenance, because the heat is going to cause the lubrication to either evaporate or get so thin it's going to run out. So I've never done any maintenance on this bread machine before, so I think I'm going to do some maintenance on it. My user's manual says nothing about the maintenance of the bearings in the bread pan and the bread machine motor. Well, it's not acting up. What I was going to do was to take the bread pan out and run it without the bread pan to see where the squeaks were coming from. Let's start with the bread pan. It's not the easiest to turn. Let's take the paddle out. See that there's no screws in there. No screws there, but there is a snap ring. Let's get my snap ring pliers out. Kind of gummy. Two washers. Thought I'd be able to push this through. It's not going. Cleaned up the side with some rubbing alcohol. I don't want to use penetrating oil because I don't want to get that into the food. I tried wrapping on this with a rubber mallet and it won't budge. I got a feeling this thing is sealed for life, and when it goes bad you have to buy a new bread pan. So I cleaned up the washers with rubbing alcohol. I'm just going to put it back together. It does not seem to turn any more freely than it did before. Take a look in here and see if we have access to this thing. It looks like this paddle is pinned onto the shaft. so it probably doesn't come off too easily. Check out the underside. Oh! Always unplug electrical appliances before you start working on them. You don't want you to get a shock. 'em. I can see the other end of the motor and the belt. $10mm nut. My guess is that this was not designed to be serviced. I'm not going to go any further with this thing. I don't want to break anything. I was going to try to take this pan out because I think this bottom part, this pan is section. I think the bottom half of this pan could come out. I think it's held in by these 4 screws. Try to squirt some penetrating oil in there. While it's running quietly without a load, so it's been about a week since I lubricated the bearings. This time I got the bread maker under stress. I've got a load of dough in there. Making some sourdough bread. I could put the link to the video up at top if you want. So this time I want to see if I get any squeaking. Penetrating oil is really not a good lubricant. It's an oil that's been thinned down with a solvent. So it's really not made as a lubricant. It's made for loosening rusty bolts and rusty nuts. It'll just eventually just evaporate or wear out or maybe even thicken once the solvent wears out. If the bearing is a ball bearing, it probably, well, if the ball bearing has any gunk on it, the penetrating oil might clean out the balls in the ball bearing, and it might give you some extra time. If it's a sleeved bearing, penetrating oil is just going to run right out, and it's not going to lengthen the life at all, and you're going to have to replace the bearing at some point, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm not optimistic with this. I'm sure whatever squeaks I had are probably going to come back, because I doubt that there's ball bearings in the bottom of the bread pan, and I doubt that there's ball bearings in the motor of the bread machine. Could be ball bearings in the bearings of the bread machine motor. I don't know, but I just heard some squeaks, so I just don't think this bread machine is going to have a long life. I don't think it was designed to be taken apart and maintained. I think it's probably just designed to be a throwaway item. Sure, you can replace the bread pan if the bread pan bearings go bad, but as far as the bearings in the motor of the bread machine, I just don't know enough about it. It is squeaking a little bit, not as much as it was before. But I think eventually the squeaking is going to get worse. I'm just going to have to keep an eye on its progress. Thanks for watching. Bye now.